While you were Secretary of Homeland Security, how many terrorist attacks on the homeland would you say were stopped?
Oh, I think the president said several, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Why do you think Senator McCain picked Sarah Palin?
Well, you'd have to ask John. You'd have to ask my friend. Yesterday, we came in second. You probably noticed that. I was Senator John McCain's been one of my best friends and best buddies since I came into the political world in 1982. We were the two Vietnam veterans in the group. Obviously, he stayed in Vietnam a heck of a lot longer than I did under far, far worse conditions. So we've been friends for a long time. I was proud to be his national co-chair. He made the choice, and you know, I think I still think that people focus on what he did or didn't do, but there are two things that I don't think in the discussion have been left out. One is that now President Obama ran the most technologically sophisticated campaign in the history of American politics. These folks know how to use the internet. These folks are really good, and they know how to proselytize, recruit, fundraise, and we weren't close. We weren't up to that. And the other thing I say, this is not a criticism, but nobody mentions it, but he blew the walls out of public financing. Remember, at one point in time, he said, I'm going to take public money, and I think at the end of the campaign, it was about $750 million. So when you've got a technologically sophisticated campaign and you got maybe, we're not whining, I mean, this is the way it worked, maybe 2 or 3 times as much money as your opponent has, you got a pretty good shot of winning. And plus, there was a lot of, you know, the environment was tough for John. I think he ran an admirable campaign, an honest campaign, and I'm sure he joins me. We want this president to be successful in the war against these terrorists. When we think he's right, we'll be certainly supporting him. And when we think is wrong, like the kind of things his attorney general is talking about in the past couple of days, we'll rise up and object to that as well. The challenges of our party, and this is obviously some people may differ, is to understand philosophically that disagreement within a group doesn't mean the group isn't unified. That disagreement does not mean disunity, and that unity does not require unanimity of thought. And I think that we should understand that there are basic principles to which all of us subscribe, and those unite us. But even among those, there may be a difference or two. Look, it's pretty clear where I am on the question of choice. And it's pretty clear that the Republican Party will always be the party that has a point of view contrary to mine. I accept that. But I want them to accept my view as well. 2 Republican presidents altered my life significantly. Richard Nixon sent me a draft notice and ended up being an infantry soldier in Vietnam. My friend of 20-plus years, George Bush, called me, and he knew I loved being governor because we talked about the experience, and said, leave the job you love and come help me combat these ideologues. Neither one asked me where I stood on a bunch of issues. They just said, will you serve? And it's that kind of mentality that I think we need to bring back to the Republican Party. Understanding where we are on some of these issues, unless we are more willing to accept that kind of thought and not disqualify a candidate because they're not in lockstep almost all the way. Ronald Reagan said it best, if you agree with me about 80% of the time, you're a darn good Republican. We got to practice what he was willing to preach and live by the way. The other thing is I spent a lot of time, most of my life, supporting candidates on some of these issues that I disagreed with. That didn't keep my support from them. It just meant we disagreed, not that they weren't worthy public servants worthy of being elected. We got to get back to that mindset.